This year, Premier League clubs have won 8 of 9 Champions League games against La Liga sides, and it suddenly looks like the power axis in Europe has flipped. So how do we go from please don't draw Barcelona or Real to Arsenal, Liverpool, City and even Newcastle bullying Spanish teams home and away? From 2009 to 2024, Spanish clubs absolutely owned Europe. 18 major Uefa trophies versus just 7 for English teams, and in all-time European head-to-heads, English sides still trail Spanish ones with 112 wins, 95 draws and 132 defeats over more than 300 matches. And it wasn't just the two giants, Real Madrid and Barcelona. Even Villarreal also often show up on a European night and humble English opposition. So what changed? How did we get from Spanish dominance to English teams bullying Spanish giants home and away? Reason number 1. The money gap blew wide open. If you zoom out from individual games and just look at the bank accounts, the story is brutal. The Premier League basically unlocked new Game Plus money while La Liga stayed on hard mode. Right now, Premier League clubs bring in almost double the revenue of La Liga clubs. Deloitte's latest numbers put the Premier League around 7+ billion euros in club income, while La Liga sits under 4 billion. That flows straight into transfer fees and wages. In a recent summer window, Premier League clubs spent close to 4 billion euros on transfers, while La Liga clubs were under 700 million. The English clubs still ran a huge collective loss, while La Liga scraped a small profit. The point isn't who's more financially responsible, it's that English clubs now have a completely different spending ceiling. Florentino Perez saw this threat coming before a lot of people did. The whole European Super League project in 2021 was sold as a way to save football and create a competition with more money, more big clashes, more guaranteed revenue for the elite clubs. Underneath the PR, it was also a reaction to one simple reality. The Premier League's TV deals and global reach were pulling away from everyone that's not oil or state-funded, including Real Madrid and Barcelona. And then you've got the way La Liga is run. La Liga president Javier Tebas loves to lecture the Premier League about financial destruction. But at the same time, he pushed his own salary up from 3.36 million euros to roughly 5.4 million a year. That's more than double what Premier League CEO Richard Masters earns. So the league that makes less money is paying its boss more than the league that actually dominates the market. The optics are not great. Real Madrid and Barcelona can still pull huge names, especially when there's an emotional hook. Kylian Mbappe and Jude Bellingham literally called moving to Madrid a dream and built his whole branding around the Bernabeu. When Ilkay Gundogan left Manchester City in 2023, he described playing for Barcelona as a lifelong dream and spoke about finally achieving it when he signed on a free. But the question is whether that's sustainable. If the money gap keeps growing, if mid-table English sides are paying superstar wages and going deeper in Europe than most of La Liga's pack, you can't rely forever on romance and history. At some point, the market follows the cash, and right now, that river is flowing straight through England. Reason number 2, Spain can't poach Premier League stars like before. For years, the hierarchy was simple. Dominate in England, then graduate to Spain. Cristiano Ronaldo, Gareth Bale, Luis Suarez, Modric, Coutinho, even Hazard. The pattern was obvious. If you were the main man in the Premier League, Barca or Madrid eventually came calling and usually got their way. That world is gone. Now, Premier League stars sit on long contracts, huge wages and massive commercial platforms without needing La Liga. Clubs like City, Liverpool, Arsenal and even Newcastle can match or beat what Spanish sides offer. The result is that Real Madrid and Barcelona are way more selective and less successful when trying to pull players out of England. Of course, the rumours don't stop. Take Erling Haaland. He chose Manchester City over everyone when he left Dortmund. Since then, the Spanish and English press have been full of rumours about a non-English release clause and a possible Madrid-only mechanism in his deal. And fresh reports say Madrid would move for him if Vinicius Jr. ever left. But still, if Haaland goes, it will be a carefully timed elite move at the top of his career, not the automatic EPL star to Madrid upgrade we saw a decade ago. There are still emotional cases, Trent calling Madrid a dream move, and there are regular rumours that Konate could follow him next summer. Rafinha chose Barca when he left Leeds instead of another Premier League club, proclaiming himself a hardcore Barca fan. Those transfers still happen, but they're one-off surgical strikes, not a constant drain on the Premier League's best talent. So Madrid and Barca haven't lost all their pull, but the days of them casually poaching the best player from England whenever they feel like it are over. If you're vibing with this breakdown so far, hit like and subscribe to Goal 90 so that you don't miss the next round of football storylines we cook up. Reason number 3. The bench doesn't speak Premier League anymore. Look at who's actually standing in the technical areas for the Spanish Giants right now. Real Madrid are coached by Xabi Alonso, a brilliant thinker, a Liverpool legend as a player, but his entire managerial career has been in Spain and Germany, Real Madrid youth sides, Real Sociedad B, Bayer Leverkusen and now Madrid. No stint managing week to week in the Premier League's chaos, only facing it from the outside. Barcelona are being run by Hansi Flick, who built his name in the Bundesliga and with the German national team, then took over at Barca in 2024. Again, elite pedigree, Champions League winner, but zero Premier League experience on the touchline. Atletico Madrid are still Diego Simeone's empire. He's been in that job since 2011, one of the longest-serving managers in Europe, with his coaching career built across Argentina, Italy and Spain, never England. Compare that to the era when La Liga owned Europe. A lot of the guys running those teams knew the Premier League from the inside. Carlo Ancelotti had already done the Chelsea grind before returning to Madrid and adding multiple Champions Leagues to their collection. Jose Mourinho literally split his peak years between Chelsea and Madrid. Those coaches didn't just watch the Premier League, they lived the way mid-table English sides press, foul and spam set pieces for 90-plus minutes. So when they met English clubs in Europe, they could preempt the chaos. Rotations, training loads, how to kill tempo, when to go long instead of trying to play through a press. Now it's flipped. The modern Premier League managers and analysts have spent a decade obsessing over Pep's positional play, which is rooted in Barcelona. Every top English club has staff who've studied Madrid's transition game to death. Meanwhile, the current Spanish benches are mostly learning the new turbocharged version of the Premier League from TV and data, not from being kicked around Burnley or Brentford on a rainy weeknight. So when Arsenal, Liverpool or City face Madrid, Barca or Atletico now, the tactical familiarity edge is with the English coaches. They know exactly what a Simeone side or a Flick side wants to do. The reverse isn't true anymore, and you can see that gap every time a La Liga giant gets suffocated over two legs by a Premier League team that looks like it's playing on fast forward. Reason number 4. Premier League intensity and fitness. You don't need spreadsheets to see this one, just watch the games. When English sides face La Liga teams now, the Premier League club usually looks like it's playing at a higher frame rate. They're still pressing hard in the 80th minute, still sprinting in transition, while the Spanish side is defending deeper and struggling to get out. That comes from the way the league is built. Week in, week out, Premier League games are high intensity, more sprints, more pressing, more second balls, plus a heavy schedule with no real winter break. To survive that, English clubs have poured money into sports science, bigger performance staffs, GPS data, recovery tech, nutrition, so their squads can keep that tempo across 50 to 60 games. Florian Wirtz is the perfect little micro example. In the Premier League for Liverpool, he's been criticised for looking a bit rushed and bullied by the pace of the league. But his two cleanest performances so far came in Europe against Atletico and Real Madrid, where the rhythm is a touch calmer and he finds more space between the lines. If he suddenly looks more comfortable versus Spanish giants than versus mid-table English sides, that tells you everything about the intensity gap English teams are now bringing into Europe. Reason number 5. Pep turned England into Spain Plus. Here's the twist. If Spanish benches don't really know the Premier League from the inside, the reverse is now true. The Premier League has Spain's entire playbook living in-house. Pep Guardiola shows up at City and basically uploads a Barcelona brain into England, positional play, third-man runs, strict zones, building from the keeper, overloads in the half spaces. Everyone laughed about how this won't work on a cold night away. Then he starts dominating the league and Europe. Once that happens, the whole division has to adapt. Arteta builds a mini City at Arsenal. De Zerbi, Postecoglou, Emery and others borrow bits of the same ideas. Even coaches who don't want the ball still spend all week planning how to kill Pep-style patterns. So English players are constantly solving problems that look exactly like what Barcelona or Real Madrid try to do in Europe. Now flip it. When they actually face Barca, Madrid or Atletico, the rotations and passing lanes don't feel exotic anymore. It's just another version of something they already see every month. Only now they can add Premier League speed and physicality on top. Over the last decade or even more, Spain has invented a lot of the ideas. England stress-tested them in a harder environment and turned the league into Spain plus extra pace. And La Liga is paying for that upgrade. Real Madrid, Barcelona and the other Spanish clubs aren't going anywhere. One wild summer or new golden generation could flip this all over again, but right now, the numbers say English clubs have the upper hand in Europe. Do you think that this is a real power shift or just a temporary swing? Let me know in the comments. Hit subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this and share this video with a friend who lives for this debate.